Hey guys, welcome back to Smart Wallet and Me, where financial wisdom really matters. Today we're going to be talking about a very important topic, and that is about debt and money. Debt is money you owe to a third party, and most often you get charged a certain amount of interest that accrues on top of the money or the principal you borrow. There is a good debt and there is a bad debt, but in this video we're only going to be discussing bad debt. According to the Federal Reserve, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and Experian, here are some key statistics about credit cards and debt in the United States. The average American household credit card balance is $7,938 as of the second quarter of 2020. Total credit card balances in the United States are $934.8 billion as of the second quarter of 2020. Americans are collectively using 23% of their available credit limit, and 43% of Americans carry over their credit card balances every single month. Americans currently have 511.4 million credit cards. 61% of American consumers have at least one credit card, and the average person has 4. These statistics show that Americans have a real problem with debt. So let's discuss 7 things you must know about debt. Let's get to it. Number 1, get out of debt. Yes, this sounds very simple and very cliche, but you know what? We need to get out of debt. Make a plan of how much debt you currently owe so you know what your debt is as of today and start making a plan. Getting out of debt isn't easy and isn't going to get fixed quickly. It's easier to get into debt than to get out of debt. You need to attack your debt with fierceness, meaning that every extra money you have needs to be put to pay down your debt as soon as possible to avoid paying extra interest on your principal. Make sure you pay your high interest rate loans first by using the avalanche method from David Ramsey. If you guys don't know anything about the avalanche method, to summarize, it means putting the majority of your monthly debt payment toward the balance with the highest interest rate and then making the minimum payment required on the rest. Once your most expensive debt is paid off, then you repeat the process until you're completely debt free. That's the debt avalanche method. Number 2, pay off your credit cards in full every month. Make sure to pay more than the minimum payment that the credit card says to pay, otherwise you will have to pay a lot of interest. And also remember, if you cannot afford to buy something, then do not buy it at all with the credit card, because then you'll be tempted to buy more things that you can't really afford. So if you can't really afford to buy it, then don't buy it at all. You can also automate this step so that your credit card gets paid in full each month so that you don't have to think about it. Automation is a very simple method where you can set it up on your credit card's website, and you can either do it with the credit card website or the bank that you are banking with. They sometimes have options where you can pay automatically every single month or on a certain particular day. And also explore options where you might be able to consolidate your loans to a lower interest rate if it makes sense for you. Take advantage of lower interest rates that allow you to put more money towards the principal. Right now, interest rates are very low, and you can probably get a refinance on your loan if it's available. You can take advantage of 0% intro APR credit cards that allow you to roll over your balances. I'm going to show you some examples from bankrate.com and how they have a credit card payoff calculator where you can use to calculate how much it would cost you to pay off a credit card balance for the particular amount of time that the credit card would allow you to pay their minimum payment versus how much you want to pay off your balance at an earlier time. So I will show you this right now. Okay guys, so here we are on bankrate.com's website, and we are using their calculator here to see how much it would cost us to pay off the average American balance on their credit card. So let's say it's $7,938 and they have a credit card rate of 18.9% and the minimum payment is 4%. You could see that the monthly payment right now would be $317.52. And the balance payoff is 156 months And that $7,938 loan would actually cost you $12,955.43 over that 13-year period. And you can see the balance really goes down very, very little until you hit the 13-year mark where the balance goes down to zero. So using this calculator, you could see that it takes a long time to pay this off, only paying the minimum balance of $317 a month. And what I was saying is, if you put in the minimum amount that you want to pay, let's say if you want to pay 10% down every single month, which would be a lot, let's say you would pay down $793.80 every single month, it would take you 4 years and 8 months to pay this off with a monthly payment of $793.80. If you guys really want to think about getting into debt, let this be something to think about, to not get into debt, because it will take you a very long time and it will cost you a lot more money to pay off the original credit card balance. Number 3, pay off student loans. If you have student loans, pay them off. Student loans are not collateralized and cannot usually be discharged in bankruptcy. This basically means that you're most likely going to be stuck with your student loans unless you pay them off. If you qualify for a forgiveness program for working in public service, that's also an option to explore. Get down to business now and make sacrifices so you can get out of student loan debt. It's not good debt, it's debt that needs to go away quickly. Number 4, make a commitment to stay out of debt. Once you're out of debt, make it a commitment to stay out of debt. This is especially important if you're a spender. You can't do anything about the debt you got into in the past because whatever was done is done, but you can avoid getting into more debt in the future by having self-control and not paying for things that you cannot afford, as I mentioned earlier. Once you're out of debt, always remember what sacrifices you had to make to get out of debt by paying down your balances, and try to remind yourself not to do it again, because I'm sure it will take a lot of effort and a lot of sacrifice on your part to pay down those balances every single month. I know for me, when I had a lot of debt, it took a lot of sacrifice and a lot of diligence for me and my wife to pay down our debt that we had. And we made a commitment that we are not going to get into any more debt as long as we live, unless it is absolutely necessary. Number 5, use debt ratios as guidance where you stand. So lower debt ratios means better debt ratios, and higher debt ratios means that you are probably borrowing too much. In general, a debt ratio could be summarized as your liabilities divided over your assets, and that gives you your debt ratio. For example, every month your debt liability could be $500 a month on your credit cards, and your income, let's say, is $5,000. The debt ratio in this particular situation would be 10%. But if your income is $2,000, then your debt ratio becomes 25%. And just some things to consider, just to have a gauge as to what is considered a good, safe ratio, a debt ratio. Consumer debt should be less than 20% of net income, and housing debt should be less than 28% of gross income, and then your total debt should be less than 36% of your total gross income. So what you would do is you would get all your debts, meaning your mortgage, your credit card, car loan, student loan, and any other loans, personal loans that you have, and put them together, and that would be your total debt. So if your total debt is less than 36% of your gross income, then you are pretty much in a good situation where you can pay it off. And make sure you get to a point where you can pay off your debt, unless you have, let's say, a mortgage to pay, then that's different. Not a lot of people could say that they have paid off their mortgages. So if you're paying a mortgage, then make sure you follow those debt ratios that I just mentioned earlier. And number 6, don't co-sign a loan. I know this is going to sound very mean and selfish, but you really need to protect yourself and your finances from people asking you to co-sign for them. When you co-sign a loan, you are the second party responsible for paying off the loan if the first party defaults and doesn't pay. Unless you are willing to carry the debt and pay off the loan of another person who defaults on their loan, then don't co-sign. it is not a wise financial decision to make, because then you're basically taking responsibility not only for yourself, but you're also taking responsibility for somebody else's decisions if they fail to pay, or if something happens in their financial situation, if they lose a job or cannot afford to pay their monthly payment, then that debt will now be yours. You can get yourself into a lot of trouble. Even if they seem to be responsible and promise to pay their debt on time, it would be wise to avoid cosigning, because you never know what could happen in life. Number 7, don't borrow from your retirement accounts. A good rule of thumb is not to borrow from your retirement accounts unless you absolutely have to. There can be tax consequences and penalties when you borrow from your retirement accounts that can make the transaction more costly than beneficial. I know a lot of people who have borrowed from their 401k plans because they needed to renovate a house, or they needed some money to pay for a wedding or something. And what they did is they went and borrowed money from their 401k plan, and it could cause them to pay a lot of penalties. And also, you are preventing your retirement account to accrue more benefits by compounding interest and future potential investments. Even a little setback could cost you thousands of dollars in the long term. So make sure you consider those things very carefully before you decide to tap into your retirement accounts. Guys, I hope you found this information useful. Please give me that thumbs up. Please smash that like button, and also subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so. And I would look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.